Good morning and welcome to this session on the skills that farmers need to let the EU farm-to-fork strategy bloom and thrive with it. My name is Maarten van der Kamp and I'm the Director of Education for EIT Food. And I'm very pleased to have an esteemed panel with us this morning. But before I introduce them, let me set the context for the discussion with a couple of thoughts that's around the topic of skills. So as we already heard this morning, the rapid shift towards a climate-neutral Europe and the digital transformation is changing the way that we work, take part in society, and lead our everyday lives. And it also includes learning. Europe can only grasp the opportunities that come with the transitions towards a climate-neutral society and the opportunities that come with digitalization. If people have the right skills to work with that and to help shape that. And I think the COVID-19 pandemic has also had a profound impact on millions of people who may have lost their jobs or who might be needing to look for other jobs in some way. And skilling, reskilling, upskilling is going to be a part of that. And for young people, actually entering the labor market is a particular challenge as well. So they're kind of the broader macroeconomic kind of developments that are there. Then focusing on the food system in particular, the European Commission's Farm-to-Fork strategy states that knowledge and advice are key to enabling all actors in the food system to become sustainable. And as Commissioner Wojciechowski indicated in his introductory remarks this morning, it is essential that we help farmers to develop the knowledge and skill to play an active role in this regard. There's some very clear objectives, for example, about empowering farmers to sort of use data and to sort of analyze production and land use and kind of environmental conditions to allow for very precise and tailored application and of production practices at the farm level, and to be able to monitor the performance of the entire sector. So that's just one example of what is in the farm-to-fork strategy in terms of skills that need to be developed. But it's also very clear that this goes much wider than that, and we're talking also about labor that works on the field needs to also have skills at the right levels there. So examples of such policies are going to drive investments in new programs to re- and upskill farmers and labor to support the green and digital transitions, enhancing innovation and growth potential, fostering economic and social resilience, and finally ensuring quality employment and social inclusion. So this policy context sets out a very clear vision. And there's some very strong objectives there to achieve for the coming decade. But what it doesn't provide is a detailed action plan, and this needs to still be developed. So there are quite a few open questions about how we can meet these expectations in concrete terms. And so I think also thinking about Mrs. Ghezi's introduction, she urged us to think broadly about skills in education in what we do to ensure that entrepreneurial capabilities are broadly available throughout the entire food sector. So in this session, we'll explore a couple of questions to articulate some ideas and recommendations that could deliver on the vision for a better connected, skilled, and innovative agricultural sector. So in particular, how can we foster lifelong learning in farmers? So farmers sort of already learn every day by learning how the farm works, how markets operate, and what is happening there. But I think what can we do to go beyond that? And what are the key ingredients to consider in shaping that skills provision? What are the particular things that we need to keep in mind in order for that to be effective? The second question is, well, the term of skills is really rather abstract. And can we dig a little bit deeper in actually sort of think about what that might mean in more concrete terms? And then, particularly in the light of Commissioner Wojciechowski's comments about the priorities regarding localized action, how can rural development clusters be mobilized effectively to support farmers, both in terms of skills and access to innovation ecosystems in order to actually make good use of those skills? So to explore these questions, I am very delighted to introduce to you our panel of speakers. We've got very lucky to have Irene Torret, who is MEP and substitute member of the European Parliament Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development. Jannes Maas, who is the president of the European Council of Young Farmers and a dairy farmer in Belgium. Marta Kutina Bakalarska, who is global head of innovations at Maspex Group, and Piotr Romanchuk, who is director of logistics for both Lubella and the Maspex Group. And so I'm really pleased to have everybody here. We've heard that Irene has some connection problems, but we'll bring her in to the conversation as soon as the power to her village or her house has been restored. And I'm very pleased to start off the conversation here. So what we'll do is that each of the panelists will share some insights in what they think are the essential aspects to consider in the context of skills development for farmers and to be able to meet the farm to fork strategy. So to start off, I'm very pleased, Irene, that you've managed to restore power. Very pleased to see you here.
Me too.
Can I immediately invite you to start with some of your thoughts on the challenges that we've outlined above?
Okay, so I think that thank you very much for inviting me to this very important conference. So the first thought about lifelong learning for farmers and the tools and resources that can drive effective skill development. First of all, and of course I talk from intimate knowledge, if we want the digital precision of agriculture to help us, first of all, we need to have it working for all the farmers in the European Union, which is not at all the case in the rural areas. So it's very important because we are talking about the modernization of the agricultural sector, and it's a cross-cutting objective of the new CAP reform. The future of the CAP strategic plans will have to articulate their contribution to the modernization of the sector by means of knowledge sharing, innovation, and fostering this digitalization. Today, member states can already finance farm advisory services with funds coming from the Rural Development Policy. Article 13 of the new regulation of strategic plan says that farm advisory service can cover economic, environmental, and social dimensions and deliver up-to-date technological and scientific information developed by research and innovation. They shall be integrated within agricultural knowledge and innovation system, AKIS, nickname AKIS. It's very important. So we have the tools to maybe fund the tuition and the formation tuition part. But once again, what is the use of knowledge if the hard thing does not work? AKIS is a system that is combining performance of advisors, agricultural training, and educational system, researchers, and farmers' organization. AKIS stands out particularly important to support farm innovation across Europe through digital transformation opportunities. In 2014-20 period, the European Commission has also introduced new tools that stimulate innovation and development of knowledge that is useful for practice. For instance, the European Innovation Partnership for Agricultural Productivity and Sustainability is a major policy and networking initiative that is designed to speed up innovation on the ground through the interactive innovation model. This model is based on collaboration between various actors, farmers, foresters, advisors, entrepreneurs. The EIP Agri benefits from a unique set of instruments funded through two European policies that work in close synergy, Horizon 2020 and the Rural Development Pillar of the CAP. Operational groups, local interactive innovation projects are the cornerstone of the EIP Agri under the CAP. So once again, sharing knowledge on a local basis is what seems to me the most efficient to improve the general knowledge and know-how. The European Parliament proposes to dedicate 30% of the funds to be devoted to advisory systems within the EFRD to environmental skills, and strategic plans may promote peer-to-peer support, demonstration, farmers, discussion groups, hackathons, whatever. Advisory services like training for trainers, facilitation skills, digital advisory services, and support formal education training, but also promote new and interactive training methods. We need the way we teach farmers to take into account the age pyramid of farmers, and maybe link young farmers with older farmers to exchange on a local basis, but make that simple and sexy. We will not change completely the way we use new techniques in farming if the way we teach them is not simple. Farmers, they are busy. We are talking about the people that work the hardest for me. With the climate change, there are a lot of stress. So we need to have tuition that they can take in stride without losing production time or feeling diminished because they don't understand the tuition. And in the future, I think that EU should mobilize some resources via Erasmus also, because the exchange, and if from the beginning farmers they can exchange, then maybe they can see that climate change is formulated and lived differently through the European Union. So maybe northern countries understand better when southern countries talk about new mosquitoes. You don't have them, you'll get them. And maybe southern countries understand better things like porcine fever that have not come luckily to us, but that maybe will come. And that exchange on good practices to improve. So the future of food, I think, is more collaborative, and I don't want to trespass my time.
Oh, thank you very much for that. So lots of very interesting starting off points there. So thank you very much for that. Yannis, Irene was already referring to young farmers, so we're very delighted to have you here. Your thoughts, on the topic of skills.
Yes, well, thank you, Martin, and thank you to the panel for also having us on board. Let me start by referring to two particular elements that Ms. Toleret has indeed mentioned. The first one, where she was an example just now before she was able to re-enter the discussion. Indeed, if you don't have the hard structures in place so that my phone, my computer, probably the most used tools on 21st century farming are indeed adding value and can work, well, then all of this becomes useless. So investing in broadband, in connectivity, also in rural and remote areas, is crucial for this process to work. And the second point, which was an element that Irene mentioned in the very end of her contribution, indeed, the fact that across Europe, across the globe, for that matter, a lot of knowledge is already available, but needs to be shared throughout the farming community. Well, an Erasmus program for young farmers is absolutely something which could add to that. So making sure that young people and the older generation as well, but let me focus on my generation in this, that young people have the chance to look what is happening in other parts of Europe and other parts of the world, and take their lessons back home to see what kind of innovations are available and what kind of innovations can be brought to their own farming activity. In general, innovation, we talk a lot about innovation, and it is obviously crucial, not only in agriculture, but in the future of this continent. But innovation has three main pillars, and we tend to forget that last one. Innovation is about research, is about development, but mainly and most importantly, it is about implementation. You can invent all you want. If it's not implementable at farm level, it's not going to bring us much profit, not for the farming sector, but not for society as a whole. And so implementation, there we see again those hard structures being missed. So no connectivity. We see a lack of investment capacity for farmers to try out, or we see mainly in the older generation a lack of trustworthiness with new systems. And so we have to focus on each of those areas. In essence, I think the most important skill that our farmers will need in the coming decades is their ability to adapt to new situations. Adaptability becomes the challenge for the coming decades. That is adapting to what Irene referred to, climate change or environmental challenges. That is adapting to new markets or market fluctuations. That is adapting to policy frameworks which change throughout time. That is adapting to the ambitions of society or the ambitions of our own sector. That is adapting to a change in your own personal life, getting a family, having possibilities or opportunities or struggles, which all have to be dealt with at that farm as well. And so the capacity for farmers to adapt to that changing reality will define the success of tomorrow. But obviously, they cannot be left alone in that process. There we also count on governments and policy frameworks to be supportive. We count on our trading partners and the rest of the food chain to ensure that market information is run through the food chain, and that they are given financial perspective in the progress of change that they are asked to be involved in. So adaptability becomes the biggest challenge, but also becomes the driver of opportunity. And let us focus on that for my part.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, and I suppose that there's also a component here about then that resilience that farmers, I think, already have very much by dealing with sort of always changing farming conditions, etc. So there might be actually something to connect to there already. So thank you for that. Marta, from your perspective, so if we look at the food system as an entire system, then I think restricting to just the farming community might actually not sort of be sufficient. So this is where I'm very delighted to have you and Piotr in the conversation as well, to give that sort of perspective from what is happening further down the value chain. So your thoughts on skills, please.
So first of all, Martin, thank you very much for invitation. This panel is really interesting, and farmers are very important, maybe the most important group from aspects. The role of farmers in changing and innovating in the food system is crucial. Farmers are a special group expected to produce good food at good price, provide effective business, take care of environment, and in addition to drive effective skill development. So farmers must consequently adapt management and production system in order to maintain and increase the competitiveness and sustainability of their business. The implementation of innovation and circular economy instruments requires both the farmers' willingness to change and lifelong learning, as well as implementation. Continuous learning, including using IT tools, knowledge transfer, technological development, cooperation with experts, scientists, and food producers are, in my opinion, necessary. The first step in driving effective skills development is to create the whole system, to organize a network of farmers or farmers' organizations, business partners, science, and NGOs with specific educational and communication programs, including many skills: business, technology, environmental, and soft skills. Farmers, food producers, and science institution networks function effectively if all are involved and see perspectives and work together as equal partners. Good tools are consortiums like EIT Food, which partners allow them to share information, technologies, and skills. The conditions for agricultural production are rapidly changing due to urbanization, human migration, digital transformation, globalization, and climate change. There are a great variety of both general and specific skills that a farmer needs in order to be innovative and able to farm sustainably. Soft skills, business skills, digital and technological skills are required. On the other hand, there is a new challenge for farmers, green skills. Skilled farmers increasingly need to have a holistic awareness of sustainability. This may relate to understanding climate change, the need for carbon emission reduction, renewable energy, biofuels, water resources, and ecosystems management, and to be updated with new regulations and legislation linked to the sustainability agenda. On the other hand, the COVID pandemic has also showed us that the most important value is life and health. We have to change our habits. Better, healthier foods are needed, and it is necessary to protect the environment. Many of us will need to acquire new skills and move to new jobs in different sectors in the economy, including people working on farms. Farmers often have free access to e-learning, webinars, blogs, a lot of instruments, a lot of tools. But in my opinion, the best way to learn and develop new skills in practice is practice. Working together with other partners, with experts, developing and testing new technologies and innovative solutions. We should share our experience and knowledge. So my recommendation is to create the whole education and implementation system, including business partners, universities, science institutions, NGOs, and of course farmers, and then to educate by practicing. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. So I think your call for action is very clear there in terms of that actually we can't see the farming community in isolation. It's part of a much broader embedded system, and only if as an entire system we work together and as an ecosystem, then we can actually do this effectively. And I think that also points back to the point that Janus already made about implementation on this. So Piotr, on that, could you share some of your thoughts? Because you've been particularly already working on some of these things very much in practice. So what are your thoughts there?
Yes. Lubella is, as a part of the Maspex group, is a great example of close cooperation between food producer, like Lubella, pasta producer, with own mills, with own silos, and farmers. Maspex group, to which Lubella belongs, with approximately 7,000 employees, is a leader in processing fruit and vegetables and cereal products in Central and Eastern Europe. Millions of hectoliters juices, thousands of tons of pasta, flour are produced in our group plants. We work closely with farmers in different areas of the country to obtain the desired raw material for production. Since 14 years ago, we started working with farmers in the cultivation of durum wheat in Poland. This cooperation is getting closer every year. Together with farmers, we look for new solutions, share the knowledge. Irene has spoken about it. We are a very good example for it. We share knowledge obtained from universities, seed producers, and our experiences with other farmers. Cooperation is beneficial for both parties. Durum wheat was imported earlier by us. We paid additional money for transportation from other countries like Canada, France, Kazakhstan. We're producing durum wheat in our region, Poland, Slovakia, in Czech, and we are a good example of business partnership. We are cooperating by selection new seeds, optimal cultivation techniques, optimal use of plant protection products. For example, we are testing organics and fungal ingredients. The farmers are very interested in this innovation. We exchange information during conferences organized by us. The farmers and scientists participate in these conferences. The last meetings were attended not only farmers from Poland, but also from Slovakia, Czech Republic. We engage our staff. We have already 2 people in the company with PhD degree in agriculture to cooperate with the farmers. We share practical and theoretical knowledge gained at universities during conference. We implement support such as weather stations. We support farmers with analyzing data from the farm. For us, farmers is a partner in innovation process. That Janos told. Research, yes, we did it. Development, yes, and we implement it. Nobody believed that we could do it. We observe climate change, but what's important, it's the partnership, knowledge exchange, openness. We create openness environment for the farmers. So we see that this cooperation is very beneficial. So the proposition, like Irene said, knowledge advisory system. It's really the base for me. We did it, and we are successful in this program. So probably when we create this, I thought about some platform for exchange of information, knowledge sharing. So probably it could be one of the solutions. What could be in advisory? Probably farmers need to be helped to find the weakness of their farms, so that we can. How can we get them? So probably the first step is the analysis. What's the situation in every region in European Union? It could be different, yes. And then we have to have special programs for the farmers. But as I told, our cooperation with farmers was successful because we treat each other as a partners, as a business partners. Openness, we create an openness atmosphere, environment for communication, exchange of knowledge. Even we have more possibility to attend conferences. We have educated workers in the company. We visit. We have the meetings with similar producers in Germany, in Austria, and we can tell our farmers the best practices. The next thing is very important to show the farmers the best practices, so they can believe that's possible to produce in agreement to the farm to food strategy. Next point is important that the farmers know what's the farm to food strategy. I asked farmers yesterday, what they know about the farm to food strategy. They know that they heard it, but they don't know exactly what's its mean in this. So we have to educate farmers in that. So coming back to the skills, we have to create openness, digitalization, but cooperation in business. Really, it's very important to create open environment for cooperation, and both sides of should have benefits in this. It's important for the farmer and for the business. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that. And I think having such a detailed insight is, for me, drawing out a number of different components. And I think all of the contributions together already sketch out quite a detailed map of the issues that need to be addressed. And I think here the point that you're making about the sort of the long-term vision that we need to have about collaborations to make this happen. So it's not as if skills are something that we can sort of do a quick fix and import skills and sort of then assume that they will work. But it's about actually having that longer term view or making sure that that implementation can actually take place. So I think thank you all for those starting thoughts. So and I think then turning to the questions more specifically, I think the first question then is about, and I think you've already indicated some components there, is how do we do this lifelong learning? So I think, Piotr, your example is a clear example there. But I think what are the other components that are there? Because I think, Irene, your point there about modernization and sort of making sure that actions actually sort of embed is a key point. So would you like to comment a little bit more on where you see the main kind of challenges or kind of the barriers that we might need to address alongside of this?
Yes, thank you very much for giving me the floor on that. I would like to add a point, a new point, hearing what I have just heard, is that also if we want this lifelong learning experience to take place, we need to have a total civil society understanding the innovation, because at the moment, farmers are subject to what we call agribashing. And the innovations we are talking about are drastic changes. And roughly, when we hear everything that is said, there is in the society almost like a reluctance for innovation when it comes to agricultural production, when it comes to farmers. And so I really believe that we will fail if we start having implementation, because some farmers will start implementing these new techniques, and they can be examples. But if these farmers are subject to massive tons of agribashing because they are producing with techniques that are a break from what is existing, then the others, nobody is masochist. So nobody wants to have the crop attacked or the farm tagged or whatever. So it's very important that we put this lifelong learning for farmers inside a more general explanation on the fact that we will reach no single target of the Green Deal if we won't do it first with the farmers, and second with authorization innovation. And that is really, for me, the cornerstone. And then after, the lifelong experience can take place. But at the moment, I mean, we have farmers that are working on changing, but we have the civil society that asks them, so please, can you start? It was better in the past. That is not true. That is not how we will fight climate change. So it's a funny point, but that's the main point that I want to make.
Thank you for that. And I think, so there is something about what you flagged up here is about also that more local context. We cannot see Europe as one homogeneous and sort of entity, and farming practices and what works in particular context is going to vary from place to place. So there's not this homogenized entity that we can talk about farming in general. It's we need to look at that more local context and see what is possible there in terms of different actions, and then to adjust that lifelong learning to that as well. So I think that's a really important point. Jannes, can I bring you in on this one? Because you as a dairy farmer, you're actually also really at the, well, coal face is the wrong word here, but you're really with wellies in the field when you're working with your animals, but also when you're connecting with markets. So how does that work actually for you on more practical levels, and where do you see learning coming into your actual daily practice?
Yeah, well, if I can quickly add to the point that was just mentioned when it comes to the diversity of European realities, but also the diversity of European potential, the potential of an intensive livestock farm in Scandinavia, or the potential of an extensive olive grower in Italy. Well, those are different, and we have to make sure that both advice, but then also the instruments which are made available are diverse, because we truly believe that it is the diversity of our farming systems that will enable us to tackle the diversity of challenges or the diversity of opportunities that the future will bring to us. And so ensuring that we don't use this common approach to design this kind of Uber farm of this is what we want to reach. That should not be the objective. The objective should be that every single farmer in their own reality, potential, and ambition can be empowered to do their part. Additionally to that, and it has been mentioned by a few of the panelists, the fact that we have to engage with civil society and engage with the rest of the food chain in this process, absolutely true. So it is crucial that all those partners are on board. However, one thing that we have to be really careful for, or at least that we have to take into account, is that the direct advice that we are giving towards farmers, the direct type of knowledge, the direct input that we are given, should not be based on or either commercial interests or ideological interests. And that today is happening too often, too much. So we see that farmers are being advised by their trading partners because of the commercial interest of that trading partner, or by organizations, environmental organizations in particular, tend to use that practice, advising them not out of bad will, but with the intention of their own ideology. And that is what we have to avoid, because at that moment, farmers lose their confidence in the people that are advising them, which should be the most trustworthy person at all. So putting the interest of what you want to reach for society and the interest of the farming sector in that process is crucial. When you refer to my own experience in it, we have talked a lot about data over the past few years, and that is crucial, because data offers opportunity of using new amounts of knowledge, or at least putting one and one together. However, data provides knowledge. What we need is actionable steps, and for that, advice needs to also take into account not only how do you perceive certain things, or how do you collect information about what is happening today on your farm or in the food chain, but we also have to offer to farmers and to the rest of the food chain actionable steps. Okay, what does this mean? From this point, where do you want to go? And most importantly, how do we get there? And the advice should also focus on those areas of interest. Maybe something that Irene, and then I'll leave the floor to others, obviously, but something that Irene said in her opening statement, and which is crucial, looking at the points that we just mentioned, is indeed AKIS. AKIS as a trustworthy common approach of how to design agricultural knowledge and innovation will be crucial in the coming years to design that path forward. And again, we have to ensure that it leaves, let's say, the Eurosphere in Brussels, and that it becomes implementable at farm level across Europe, north to south, east to west.
Thank you for that. And I think so the image that's coming out there that you both invoke is very strongly about a farmer that is actually needing to connect. And I think this is quite a practical skill there. It's about connecting different pieces of information, different pieces of the puzzle, but to cite that into the local context of the farm, and to do that continuous translation of what data is being provided, what advice is available, what knowledge is available, and then to judge kind of how does that affect me, and try and do that implementation in line with what is possible on the on the ground. And I think this is a key bit about where actually the knowledge, the always evolving knowledge about the farm, how the farm operates, how the different enterprises in a farm, and particularly if we're talking about the multi-enterprise farm, how they are interacting or interrelated, but also then what are the possible best practices. So from a farmer's perspective, that is actually a key skill of being an integrator of all of those different components, and then to be a decision maker of what happens now, and to use that very strategic view, not only on the livelihood of the everyday, but it's also that longer term vision of if I now invest, what might be my returns in 5 years time or 10 years time. So the longevity, or the long perspective, actually comes back in. And I think that picks up on Piotr's example of the collaboration, that collaborations are long term. So I think really interesting points on that. So then I think a second component here is, Irene, what you already mentioned, and is this digitalization. And I think, Marta, you picked up on this as well. So can we think a little bit more about the component of digitalization, digital skills in this entire environment? Irene, would you like to kick this off, and then I'll turn to Marta?
Sorry, can you repeat again?
So for me, I think, well, you made the point very clearly about digitalization, that is still that's very much part and parcel of where we're going. But I think the key bit is then how do we connect that and the skills, and where does digitalization sit within this entire infrastructure of skills to come?
Okay, sorry about that. So the addressing the digitalization is really addressing one of the main routes to target that on the Green Deal objectives. But addressing the digital skills is not a straight way forward. As I said earlier on, and proved also, the digital skill gap, the lack of broadband in some European regions is a big obstacle to develop smart agriculture. The European Union should keep supporting the broadband through the European Regional Fund, the European Fund for Rural Development, and also the European Interconnection Mechanism. Digital solutions are increasingly used across different administrative and economic sectors, fueling the demand for digital skills. In the future, they will be required for 9 out of 10 jobs, while 169 million Europeans, that means 44% of the EU population, do not have any basic digital skills. So various EU policies, instruments, and initiatives promote training and in digital skills across economic sectors to tackle that need, such as initiatives under the New Skills Agenda for Europe or the Future Digital Europe program. In June 2020, there was the EIP Agri seminar on new skills for digital farming, in which the following skills were identified: attitude and open-mindedness, that is very important to develop technical skills; comprehensive management; communication and collaboration. Collaboration is a little music, coming and coming and coming. Bridging, that is knowing which technology is the most appropriate, case by case. Digital literacy, that has the basic skills, and advanced digital skills. Farmers need to identify what they want to achieve and how digital technology may support this transition. At the moment, digitalization is lived by farmers in general, like member state giving them the administrative workload that was done by paper to do at night with their computer when it works at home. And we need to change this view on the subject, and that the digitalization can bring something to the farmers. And they should be the competencies that are related to conversation, co-creation, collaboration, cooperation, and all of that, because all the farmers, they need to understand what the digitalization can bring to them. And so it's important to have these basic skills improved. And the farmers should have the ability to link digital tools with their own business. They need to have informatization knowledge and understand that it's not just investing on a computer and a phone and doing with very sophisticated tools what they are already doing. The really strong point for me on the digitalization is making farmers understand how these tools and the skills needed for these tools are the only way to reach the Green Deal's objective. Because there is no miracle. If we do not change things, the same causes give the same consequences. So I think that we should really work on that.
Thank you for that. And I think lots of things to think about. Marta, from your perspective and where you're sitting and the way that you think about innovation, how do you think and how do you position those digital skills, and how do they actually connect with innovation practices, as you can see it from aspects?
Yes, I fully agree with Irene. But on the other hand, digitalization, artificial intelligence, data are not so easy issues. In recent months, some farmers in Poland have begun. Our farmers have begun to consult the data about essential variables like soil, crops, livestock, or weather. But only few have had access to advanced digital tools that would help to turn this data into valuable, actionable insights. In less developed regions, almost all farm works is manual, involving little or no advanced technology or equipment. Although technological knowledge seems not so necessary for many farmers, still, learning to become more technological minded is extremely useful and can save money and time in longer time. Skilled agricultural workers will need to be able to understand and apply new technologies related to primary production for both food and not food uses, soil science, crop and livestock genetics, agrochemicals and general purpose technologies, such as remote sensors, satellites, and robotics. Crisis management in situation of weather and pest hazard. It's really important. The way to easy access to infrastructure is collaboration, still collaboration between farmers and food processors, technological partners, machinery producers, equipment producers. And European Commission supports also financially such partnerships to create new innovative approach. It is needed. Digitalization is one of the purpose of New Horizon. So there is new possibility to use this equipment by farmers, their business partners, to limit financial risk of learning and implementing new technologies. So I think that is a big challenge for farmers, for all partners, but we have to do it.
Okay, thank you. And I think this brings us already, and I think we've already started answering some of the parts of the second question, which is really about, can we be more specific about the kind of skills that we're talking about, because skills in the abstract is going to keep this as a very high level. So if we can talk about more concrete skills, then it also becomes clearer in terms of what interventions actually might help. And I think we've already sort of touched on a couple of very good points here. But I think for me then a question is, how do those skills come about, and what are the ways of that we can foster learning here, and what kind of programs would actually help this? Jannes, would you like to comment on that, kind of on how learning actually happens on a farm, and kind of how programs could support this, or kind of how different actors can support the learning?
Yeah, well, from personal experience and what we hear in our networks, farmers learn best of all from other farmers. Not only because you have this direct reality touch upon what is being discussed, there is a sense of trust which you can't find anywhere else. That is the way it goes. And we speak the same language, even if we don't speak naturally the same language. Even when I speak with somebody in Sweden or even in Southeast Asia, what you feel is that you do know the same struggles, you do know the same ambitions, you do know what is going on in that world. And so I think that is something we have to take on board, is that if you focus on what is already there. And maybe I know that Piotr mentioned the farm to fork not being known by a lot of farmers, and that is without doubt true. I would argue that also otherwise, and the other way around, the Commission, when drafting the strategy, didn't really grasp the realities and dynamics of farming sector today, and that becomes the essence of it. There is already a lot going on today, and so let's not only try and reinvent new things. Let's also focus on making best practices which are there today, in spreading them across the farming sector across Europe. And so for that, having farmers talking with other farmers is going to be key, and we'll have to find a way in which language barriers, in which the fact of not being physically together can be overwon, but that will be the main focus. Make sure that farmers learn from farmers, and on top of that, a bit what I referred to earlier when I talked about the need for a diversity approach, is also don't expect that all farmers have the same ambitions or have the same personal capacities. Not every farmer is made to start with local sales. There are some who are going to be brilliant in that, but some who won't have the interest themselves, who won't have the capacity, who won't have the ability in their region. And so let's make sure that we also acknowledge the ambitions of individual farmers, of where they want to go. And obviously it has to be in line with let's say the sustainable development goals and the ambitions that we have there. But we have to make sure that everybody also feels that they have their own destiny in their own hands, because the moment we try to take that away, it's not going to happen. People will refuse to step into that process. So farmers learning from farmers, and make sure that they feel they have their destiny in their own hands.
Thank you. So I think that's a very clear call there to work with the realities there, sort of the economic realities, as well as indeed the capacity. So there's a broader point there about capacity and capability there on kind of how to drive things forward. And so I think what is coming out for me very clearly is that we also need to have a sort of from the sort of ground up, so a bottom up approach, along with a top down vision of where the farming sector would need to go. But we also need to have that bottom up approach about what skills are really going to be useful to drive what is happening on a farm. So then turning at sort of a little bit more towards the support mechanisms that are there. And I think, Marta and Piotr, from you, we already heard very clearly on kind of how actors further on in the value chain actually can really make a difference here and to enable that growing. So what are you seeing as the role of innovation and innovation ecosystems in order to actually help that skill development among farmers. So how can we connect the innovation component into the skill development from your perspective? Piotr, maybe first from you.
Said so we have to create an environment to exchange information, exchange the best practices in farming, and really the farmers are speaking the same language in the field. We could observe it. What we can promote is to promote openness in exchanging the information. Regarding the skills, I come back up at digitalization. I can't imagine precision farming without digital skills. So digital skills are the fact. So we have to promote as a business the skills, the meeting with one farmers with other farmers, maybe to create some platform. Maybe farmers should have something like young people have Facebook, using Facebook. Probably the farmers should have the opportunity to exchange the best practices. That should be look for themselves, not like a competitor, but like the one group, homogen group, not competitor among farmers. So really, maybe Marta has to add something. Yeah, Marta, are you here?
Oh, Marta, you're on mute.
Yeah, it's okay?
Yes, okay.
You hear me, yeah? I agree with Peter. I think a heavy responsibility rests with European Commission, governments, but also with food processors, machinery producers, science, to ensure farmers are connected to existing cluster. There is necessary to check and conduct the research in every region in Europe if farmers collaborate with other partners and how. What is the situation? Although there is a wealth of research and initiatives relating to cluster in general, little attention has been paid to clusters in agricultural sector. This may be because the notion of cluster is closely related to competitiveness and innovation, and thus it has been traditionally applied to sectors that focus on innovation as innovation, technology, electronics, manufacturing. There is a lot of tools. A good tool prepared by European Commission could be instrument EIP Agri, European Innovation Partnership, which works to foster competitive, sustainable farming and forestry to ensure a steady supply of food, feed and biomaterials. This instrument should be continued and developed. Another good example is our consortia like EIT Food, where we have partners from industry, agri-food, technology sector, research centers, and universities from across Europe. One of the EIT food activities should be helping to build a better system for farmers' skills and developed. It could be a challenge for new perspective. I think collaboration between other parties is the most crucial, and we should share our experience, not only between farmers, but between farmers, food processors, machinery producers, digital companies. So clusters could be the good instrument to develop farmer skills. in the future.
Thank you for that. And I think there is a lot that indeed we've been seeing, and I think it provides a good platform to actually do that, because it brings together that sort of very applied and local context together with the implementation piece of the R&D, what Janus was already referring to. But I think it is also the place to experiment and to see kind of and have that broader support network that is really going to be key on that. So I think thank you for those comments. So looking at the time, we don't want, and I've got the feeling that we could be continuing for quite a while yet, because there's still a lot more ground to cover. But there are also a couple of questions from the audience. So let's look at that first. And so the first question is from Lynn Fortin, who is agricultural counselor in Canada. And she is asking, is there any benefit to linking farmers globally, in her case, Canada, EU member states, to exchange knowledge? So we're talking here very much about, of course, a European dialogue, but how can we connect this more broadly to what is happening around the globe? Who would like to sort of start on that response? Irene. Oh, Irene, you're on mute.
Yes. Thank you very much. You have seen that I have a vivid faces. Huh? So I think that at the moment when we talk, we are in the middle of the COVID crisis. And I think that one of the main lessons that this crisis has taught us is that the speed of the consequences of climate change makes it imperative that we put all the good practices on the common table. So I think that the rhythm of change, of the evolution, and so the speed that we need to increase to try to mitigate the climate change makes it impossible, I think, to work on a local dimension, regional dimension, national dimension, European dimension. I mean, if we have one good solution to implement the future of food that works and delivers on climate change and Green Deal, meeting Green Deal objectives, then we need to share that practice as soon as possible.
Thank you. Janus?
Well, coming on that, and it's an example, because I think that was also what Ms. Fortin was looking for. As CIJA, together with farmer organizations across the globe, we are engaged in a project called the Climate Makers, and the Climate Makers is actually on the topic that Irene put forward, is farmers across the globe in their reality putting forward best practices to combat climate change, both in carbon sequestration, in lowering emissions. So everything we can do in adapting to climate change, obviously, as well. And so there are some structures on the table where farmers globally also meet to design those best practices and to communicate them, obviously starting from their own reality, and not everything is copy-paste material, but everything does open a reflection on what is possible. Now, something that I would urge the society of innovation hubs to intervene is make sure that we also use existing networks. For example, university networks are cross-global. Well, let's make sure that all those universities who have an agricultural branch are also talking to each other, because very often they also have the local networks involved in what they are doing, that research institutions are doing the same. We are also engaged in a project called Agri-Smart Hubs, which is across Europe, also putting forward different innovations in the farming sector and putting one and one together. And that is the main point, making sure that we don't have to do all the work twice, 3 times, 15 times, but that we can learn from each other of what is already happening today.
Thank you for that. Marta, Piotr, from your perspective out of Maspex, you are already very international. What would be your view on this?
Marta?
Climate changing is very important issue for all. Of course, skilled farmers need to have a holistic awareness of sustainability and climate changing. This may relate to understand climate change need for carbon emission reduction. On the other hand, our farmers in Poland, we want to be prepared for climate changing, and aspects with our farmers, we are looking for new species which will be produced in Poland with new conditions. So, of course, we have to take care about climate, and we have to be prepared for changes.
Yeah. So we are using this opportunity with climate change because 20 years ago it was quite not possible to have durum wheat in Poland. Now we got it in good quality, like good corn quality, not only for feed but even for human consumption, and it's changing the market. But we observe changes in the market, in the climate, and we promote the sustainable practices. So we have it in mind. So if we have the opportunity, we test with our farmers new pesticides, or we were thinking about reducing of fertilizers in the process. So we have in mind precision farming in our mind. So we are thinking about collection data from other different machinery to use less fertilizer to take care. So we are aware of this climate changes. Our farmers that are cooperating with us, mostly they're young farmers. We have generation exchange in Poland now, so they're very open-minded people, really, and they have it in mind. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think so there are indeed opportunities, and it's about finding the right networks to have that knowledge sharing, and then indeed about what binds us globally to actually solve those challenges together in some way. So but just before I wrap up, one quick question. I think the question is directed to Jan, but I think others might also have a very quick response to this. Is having said that the best approach to education is peer-to-peer learning among farmers, how shall we tackle the intergenerational education, especially in the light of digitalization as important trends as described by Marta and Irene? This is from Alexandra Nizinska. She is in EAT Food, and I think it's a really interesting question. So let's think for just 2 minutes about particularly the intergenerational component. Yes.
I'll go first. Irene, you can add to that. In general, obviously, the young farmers often bring a sort of dynamic willingness to discover new things, to reflect on new options, and so that is the ambition that is necessary. What the older generation very often has to offer, and which we can't dismiss, is a reason why we are doing things like we are doing them. And that doesn't mean that it can't be questioned, but it does mean that there are arguments why it is. And something which in advisory frustrates me quite often is that you are given advice, and then you reflect on it, you choose not to because there are limitations to the deal or whatever. And those giving advice think, oh, they probably didn't understand it. We'll re-advise them and tell them again, and maybe we have to explain it in more simple terms. No, farmers also make those reflections themselves, and there are sometimes very strong arguments not to go into a certain innovation, whether they are financially capacity which is lacking, whether it is a trade-off which is not being taken into account by those advising. And so we also have to take that mindset which all the older generations often have of, okay, let's move slowly. Well, there is a reason why things move slowly in the farming sector, because to the determinant of innovation, very often also failure is lurking on the corner. And in the farming sector, it's built on a family's capital, and so you can't you can't afford failure. Irene.
Yes, I just wanted to say roughly what I say, Yanis, but also to add the fact that farmers are already doing it. Farming has always been something that has put the exchange between men at the center of local issues. And this is how also quality science have been developed, because some farmers have chosen to produce a blue cheese from ewe milk. It's choice. And it's because the old guys were talking with the young guys. And I think that with the new CAP, and thanks to Jérémy Deserle, who must not be forgotten, we have doubled the budget for young farmers. And I think that with these digitalization skills, maybe there will be a new intergenerational skill coming now, is that the old guys will explain that how Yanis said, we do this like that because it's better, and it has been better for centuries. But then the young guys will say, okay, maybe that is how you can use your phone and look at that. And it's the best way to implement new techniques. It's the peer-to-peer, informal sort of discussion. And it must be not be neglected, but with Yanis, Samuel, and all the guys at Young Farmers, I know that the intergenerational job will be done.
Thank you. I think that's a wonderful point to end this session on. So first of all, a very big thank you to Irene, Yanis, Marta, and Piotr for joining us. It was very much a pleasure to have this conversation with you, and for the audience also, thank you for joining us. And so I think there are some very clear recommendations that are coming out here with regards to this idea of local contextual skill development, to have that as a starting point. We do need to have that collaboration amongst multiple partners within the value chain, and we need to really think about, well, which skills are going to be really helping farmers through. So not something having a very abstract idea of skills, but to make this very concrete and to set this in a context of as an evolving kind of farm system that is sustainable from farm to fork. So with that, I would like to close this session, and I would like to remind you that and I'd like to invite you all to come back to the main stage for the closing remarks by Dr. Volker Heinz, who is the Director and CEO of DIL, the German Institute for Food Technologies. So I look forward to seeing you all there, but for now, thank you very much, and I hope you've got a good rest of the day. Thank you.